All right. Well, folks, we are here for another show. Let's hope tonight we don't get attacked by whatever happened last night. So, while we're here, while all the technology is working, welcome everyone to the VinceDao show. I'm going to play the intro. Stay tuned. We got a good show tonight, so stay tuned. We are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome everyone to the VinceDao show. I am your galaxy-brained host, VinceDao, and before we begin, as usual, everyone be sure to leave a like on the stream right now. We're at 18 likes, 19 likes. What are we doing, chat? Let's get that stream to 50 likes. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And as usual, if you do want to support the show tonight, you got questions or comments throughout the night that you want read and answered, feel free to send it in via the super chats. In fact, I know we already got a few super chats, so I will check those out here in a second. Tonight on the show, we got a couple of things to talk about. So first and foremost, Ben & Jerry's, that's right, the ice cream. They've actually been woke for a while, but on the 4th of July, they went out and basically said that Mount Rushmore is on stolen land, and we need to return Mount Rushmore to the Lakota Sioux Indians. To that, I'm going to give them a very strong history lesson, so we're going to talk about that. Also, house arrest in Romania has been extended for the Tate brothers, but one judge in the case is starting to rebel. We'll talk about that, give you kind of the updates there. And then Joe Biden today in South Carolina gave another speech touting Bidenomics, because as we historically know, you know, the Biden economy is going so well. We're going to react to that, and that should be fun. So that's the show tonight. It'll be a great show. Before we begin, as usual, again, be sure to leave a like. And really quickly, let me read the super chats that we got just now, and then we will get started here, ladies and gentlemen. So, dollar for $2 says... Thank you for the question, dollar for dollar. All right, this is an interesting question. He says, who is more based, lesbians or libertarians? Okay. Well, to me, you know, I don't know. You're basically saying here's lesbians and libertarians. They're both L's. They both end in the same words. Are they really all that different? I have no idea. But I'm going to assume we have more libertarians watching the show than lesbians. And so I will just play the appeal to majority fallacy and maybe take the libertarians on that front, okay? The libertarians. Thank you for the $2, dollar for dollar. Burgundy Blue for $5 says, hey, Vince, sorry I missed last night's stream. It kept cutting out and I had to wake up at 5 a.m. for work. Okay, thank you for reminding me, actually. I totally forgot I was going to do that in the intro. Okay, one last thing before we start here. I think we have to address the elephant in the room, which is what happened on last night's stream. Did we get DDoS? Was it just bad internet? What the heck was happening? Well, so I called the internet provider. I called my internet company right after the stream last night. Sorry, I'm a little congested here. You'll have to excuse me. I called them, and straight up, they told me nothing was wrong. They said, oh, well, we checked your internet. I called them. Oh, we checked your internet. Everything looks stable to me right now. I said, yes, of course, everything looks stable right now, dingus. Was it stable around 8 p.m. Eastern time when we streamed? And they said, well, I'm looking here and I don't see anything wrong. They said nothing was wrong. So we did. They said there was, not only was there no DDoS, the equipment was working fine, the signal was working fine. According to them, everything was working fine, which clearly it was not, because you were here on the stream last night. You guys who were here, nothing was working, and it was not computer issues, because we switched computers, we switched devices. Everything on the local network was totally not streaming, totally not working, and it all the characteristic symptoms of DDoS, right, of a cyber attack, because Wi-Fi was on, it was just heavily being disrupted. So did we get DDoS tonight? What happened? The short answer still is I have no idea. You know, I have a feeling my customer support I called last night is totally incompetent. So I don't know actually what happened at all. I hope it was not a DDoS, genuinely. I hope we're not at freaking cyber warfare with someone, you know, that would be kind of annoying, would it not? So, I don't know, it's working tonight, so let's just hope it stays that way, you know. It's very incompetent customer support last night. They just straight up said nothing was wrong. You guys who were here know something was wrong. Something was very wrong. I have no idea. So that's what happened last night. All right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, enough beating around the bush. Let us get into the actual news tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So, it is the hour of Dow. Let's get into these stories. All right, well, we open with this. So Ben & Jerry's, that's right, the ice cream company, has gone full woke, which is not surprising. They've actually been woke for a long time. This is nothing new. But they celebrated the 4th of July a couple days ago by going on this big tirade here about how the entire United States essentially is on stolen land from the Indians. And more specifically, what they went out there and said is that Mount Rushmore, stolen from the Lakota Sioux, which is the tribe that the United States conquered that land from. Mount Rushmore is stolen from the Lakota, and they did this whole thing called the the Give Back Land movement. They went out here and literally said that the U.S. needs to return Mount Rushmore to the Lakota Indians. Reading the statement here, the U.S. exists on stolen land. We have to acknowledge that today and every day. Apparently the Supreme Court already did. And so it says, this 4th of July, it's time to return that sacred place to the Lakota. Let's make it a day that embraces freedom and justice for all. So you got that. Give back Mount Rushmore. And you may remember, during 2020, Donald Trump gave a speech, 4th of July, out Mount Rushmore. And that was very, very controversial because they said, return the land, Lakota, all this stuff. Okay. So here's my thing in response to this, though. If you know the history here, it is true. The Americans did build Mount Rushmore after they conquered the land from the Lakota tribe. But my question then in response to it, you say it should be returned to the Lakota, but genuine question, who should it really be returned to? Because if you research the basic history of this region, and when I mean basic, Google it, right? I know a lot of history on this topic is obviously suppressed and there's biases. It's so straightforward. You Google this. You would know that the Lakota actually conquered this land from the Cheyenne Indians and other Indian tribes in the 18th century. So to that I say in response to Ben & Jerry's, why return it to the Lakota and not the Cheyenne? Should the Lakota also apologize for stealing land, which they did? Or is quote-unquote stealing land only a bad thing when white men do it? I have no idea, right? It's very incoherent there. But let me take this whole conversation one step further in regards to Mount Rushmore and say this, that frankly, you know what? I know the often conservative take is, oh, well, yeah, I get it. There was conquest back then. Bad stuff happened. It is what it is, but you can't change history. Here's where we are now. What are we going to do about it? That is the mainstream conservative response to when liberals say this. But I'm going to take that whole conversation to a different perspective and say, frankly, in regards to Mount Rushmore, the United States actually has literally nothing to apologize for. Because if you actually learn the history of the Lakota Indians, again, this is the tribe that we took that land from, the Americans were actually 100% the good guys in this war. Because even for the standards of American Indians, the Lakota Sioux had an exceptional record of brutality. And frankly, I know this is the politically incorrect offensive word, but I have no other word to describe it. Savagery. 100%. Because not only did the Lakota conquer the Cheyenne from that very region, not only did they conquer, but they were known for this. This was their reputation as an Indian tribe. Raped, murdered, enslaved, and tortured everyone with an exceptional record of brutality that even other Indians, even the other Native Americans thought was pretty insane. So here reading here from Richard Henry Pratt's The Battlefield of Indian Wars, the Conflict of Civilization with Savagery, and I quote, the warriors in making their attacks, this is talking about, the poor innocent hippies that we took this land from allegedly. The warriors in making their attacks were not content with merely killing, but found special joy in taking scalps, aka they tried to kill people in ways that were as brutal as possible. They did not spare the women and children in their attacks, and their very love for war and for scalping made them merciless. The Sioux were celebrated for their brutal and cowardly manner of warfare. They took advantage of every opportunity to ambush small parties of whites, to burn, destroy, and to murder. The Indians' lust for blood, the war dance, and the scalp dance all had their effect upon the young, and it required much for them to overcome these tendencies. This heathen dance in which the Indian tortures his own flesh and that of many others is harmful to the mind and body. It is a long and terrible ordeal which ends in madness, if not in death. If you look it up, he's talking about the Lakota ghost dance. You can look that up. Google that and come back and tell me if you really think the Americans were the bad guys for, I don't know, as they argued, quote unquote, civilizing this tribe of Indians way back in the day. So that's my thing on this front, right? Ben and Jerry's, you say that we took sacred land from these Indians. To that in response, I say, okay, so the land is sacred to them. Those hills were so sacred. But why should we care about that if this is coming from a tribe historically? I'm not talking about people today, but historically at the time, apparently did not think human life was sacred, okay? So they don't believe human life was, they did not believe, the tribe we took it from, did not view human life as sacred. They took a special joy, not just in killing the warriors, the fighting age men, but women and children, enslaving, raping, murdering, doing basically ritual human sacrifice and stuff like that. So why should we care that their land was quote unquote sacred? I don't see the argument there. And my conclusion on this front is that far from being this greedy conquest of a bunch of poor, peaceful Native Americans, I know they're often portrayed in our culture as like these hippies who are just Mother Nature, they were peaceful and these white people just came along and brutally killed them all. No, when you actually research, and like we read here, the history of the Lakota Sioux, you actually conclude, at least I do, that the United States did a net good for the Black Hills and for the world by conquering the Lakota Sioux. In my opinion, the world is much better off for it. I don't think the United States has anything to apologize for. I think actually, if anything, the Lakota Sioux, if we're going to do this route, that tribe today should probably go and apologize, not just to the United States, but to the Cheyenne and to all of the tribes and just people in general throughout human history that they very brutally raped and murdered. Just saying, right? And I'm not for the apology game, for the record. I'm not genuinely saying that. I'm just saying if we're going to play this game, the only people who have to apologize are the very Lakota Sioux themselves, okay? And as for Mount Rushmore itself, I know very often the conservative defense of Mount Rushmore is like, yeah, is the history a little bit tarnished? Sure, I'll give you that. But, ultimately at the end of the day, all it is a monument to great men, There's the founders on there. There's Lincoln. There's Teddy Roosevelt. I will say, though, right? My response is, yes, the left actually does have a point. That thing, and it's true when you look in the history of this, Mount Rushmore is a symbol of conquest. You guys are actually right about that. Okay, the Americans did kind of build Mount Rushmore as a symbol of their conquest of the specifically the Lakota Indians, and that's kind of undeniable when you look at the history of it. My response, though, is I don't see what's the issue with that. I don't see the issue with that. Because when you understand, specifically in the context of the Black Hills, who was conquered here, you realize very quickly that actually, yeah, Mount Rushmore in some ways is a symbol of the triumph and the conquest of civilization. Ultimately, as imperfect as civilization is, what it symbolizes is civilization over savagery, right? The American conquest of the Black Hills is no different than the past conquest of the Black Hills, including that of the very Lakota Sioux you say, we should return the land to. But what does make it different is the fact that actually the American conquest is the only conquest of the Black Hills that actually put a stop to things like the ghost dance and, mass rape and mass genocide and slavery and all of the crazy barbaric things that went on the Black Hills before the Americans showed up, okay? And before you come to me, I get it. This is not to say that every single American soldier was perfect when they conquered the Black Hills. Yeah, it's warfare. War crimes happen. War crimes have always happened. Okay, I'm not downplaying that. But it is to say, overall, for the region, the United States has nothing to apologize for because the United States were the good guys here. And if you really want to look at it in human history, this is not a story that we as a country should at all feel, empathetic or be apologetic for. No, we should still look at Mount Rushmore today and be proud of it. Not just because of the fact that there are great men on that mountain, but actually, yes, when you look into the history of it, we did kind of conquer, stuff to get there. The difference is we actually brought, civilization and order and values and morality to a place and to, back then, a society that basically had none. So there's my response to Ben and Jerry's, First and foremost, I suppose my question is, why should it be returned to the Lakota when the Lakota not only stole it from the Cheyenne, they stole it in pretty brutal fashion? That's number one. But then number two, why should the United States be sorry? Why? Oh, we took the land from the indigenous people. Well, listen, I'm not here to really say anything, but I will say, when you have a tribe like the Lakota, whose entire legacy, all they do is rape, kill, murder, steal, enslave. That's literally what they did. And they were feared by the other Indians for this. The other Indians were like, those people are crazy. If our legacy is conquering that, then why should that be viewed as anything other than triumphant? I'm actually very I listen to that story as an American and say, wow, that was cool. Kind of proud to be an American in that regard, because here were these people who were causing all sorts of problems. They were terrorizing the other Indians as well. It's not just a matter of they were terrorizing like white Americans. They were a menace to the Indians. They were a menace to the land, to everything. And, the United States came along and drove them out. And nowadays, actually, you could argue civilized them, right? Because now the Lakota, right? Now I understand they're all mad and they protest with their signs and all that. And it is what it is. You could argue they're very American in that regard. But the Americans of the time actually took that civilization and, I guess put an end to some of those practices. So nothing to apologize for. There's my take. There's my response to Ben and Jerry's. And yeah, there's no reason why conservatives or any Americans should feel bad about the Mount Rushmore story. We were absolutely in the right. And historically speaking, we did really a noble thing by conquering the Black Hills, I should say. So it is very true. All right, before we move on here with our stories, let me get caught up here on our super chats, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go. Burgundy Blue for $10 says, Vince, have you seen the clip of Algerians in France shouting F France? We just want welfare. We want the red passport. French passports allow for more international travel. I'm not even exaggerating. Thank you for the $10, Burgundy Blue. I have not seen that clip. But, I'd have to imagine a lot of the people who are rioting right now in France, is it really because they feel bad for that Nahel M guy? Does it really have anything to do with him? Not particularly. I think it's just an excuse, right? And honestly, let's be real. It's the same thing in 2020 with BLM and George Floyd and all that, Like, again, and even think what you will about that incident itself. None of it was about that. It was angry people just wanting an excuse to burn down society. And I think you're seeing the same thing in France as well, They would just sit around kind of waiting for that excuse is really what it's about. So thank you for the $10, Burgundy Blue. I appreciate it. Dollar for $2 says, getting DDoSed on episode 69. Must have been a DNG. Thank you for the $2, dollar for dollar. It's so true. They had to, of all episodes they could ruin, they chose episode 69. I think that's very interesting. Thank you for the $2. Mr. Rat for 20 SEKs says, thoughts, congratulations on 200K, Vince. Thank you very much, Mr. Rat. I appreciate it very much. And it is true. I forgot. I was going to thank you guys last night, but it was so chaotic. So let me say now, thank you to everyone for 200,000 subscribers. Very epic, very cool. Appreciate it. We are now on the road to 300,000 subscribers. So be sure to share this channel with a friend. And if for some reason you're watching us and you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe. All right, Mr. Rat for 20 more SEK says, land is conquered, never stolen. It is true, right? Oh, you stole the land. What do they do? Come in the night? The only way you can steal land is, let's say you have a lease on the land or something, middle of the night, oh, took your lease, let me rewrite it. It's like, it's silly. Yeah, the word itself is disingenuous. We did conquer the land, okay? Just as the Lakota conquered it before that, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the only difference is when the Americans conquered, the Black Hills, they actually did good for the Black Hills instead of enslaved and raped and murdered everyone. That's just a historical fact. It's very true. So thank you for the 20 SEKs, Mr. Rat. I appreciate it very much. Again, guys, if you do want to super chat to support the show, it is all greatly appreciated. But sorry, I'm congested still here, ladies and gentlemen. But we're clearing up. Okay, we're clearing up. We're almost past it. I don't know what gave me congestion or allergies or whatever, but we're just getting over it. So I appreciate it. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. It's true. Friendly Medic for $5 says, Teddy Feaseveld is my favorite person on Mount Rushmore. What is yours, Vince? Thank you for the $5, Friendly Medic. I might have to go for George Feaserton. I think that's my favorite person on Mount Rushmore. It's true. Thanks for the $5. Dollar for $2 says, stealing land like that episode of Gravity Falls. Yeah, real. They just got your land, yanked your old chain. except it's land, yanked yo land. Is that how it works? Is that what happens? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. The correct word is conquest. Conquest. You are indeed right. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for these super chats. We will read them all, obviously, as we move on here. But let us go on to our next story here. But first, let me take a sip of water because I need it. I have smart water, by the way. Is that a very liberal brand of water to drink? I really shouldn't even be drinking out of plastic at all, but you know, I went to the gas station the other day and I needed it. It's smart water, alkaline water. Okay, is that hypocritical? Does that make me a hippie? I think I'm a hippie, guys. Okay, I'm a secretly, you know, born and raised in California, secretly a hippie. We know this to be true. I'm drinking smart water, alkaline water. Okay, it's true. Everyone can stone me now. All right, one last super chat here. Wango, let's go. Wango XT says, have you heard of the Beaver Wars? It's pretty fascinating and relevant to your topic. Thank you for the 5 Canadian. Am I to assume that's something to do in Canada or whatever? It sounds French. I'd have to imagine it has to do with French, you know, with the beaver fur and the wars back then. So I'm not super familiar with it. Thank you for the 5 Canadian. I'd have to imagine it's what, you know, the French up in Canada and Ohio and stuff. So I'm not super familiar, but I'd have to imagine similar things were probably true as were true with the American warfare against the Lakota. But thank you for the $5 Canadian dollars, and that is the first super chat from Wango XT. So I appreciate it very much. Brian E says, do you have a hydro flask? I do not have a hydro flask. Okay. All the annoying girls in high school used to have hydro flasks, so I never bought one. But all right, let's move on here to our next story. So we got to give you some updates on this Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate trial in Romania. You know, for a while, we've been calling out the corruption in this case, how the evidence is weak. They're doing this, you know, preventative arrest, how it's obviously a political hit job. But we got some updates on this front. So today, their house arrest got extended. If you know, they got released from jail finally a couple months ago. Now they're on house arrest as they await this trial. But here's where it all gets kind of weird, I guess you will say. So initially, they said 30 more days of house arrest. It goes up to this appeals court. And as reported here, in a hearing earlier today, the 2 judges disagreed with each other. So I guess in these Romanian appeals courts, you have more than one judge. The 2 judges disagreed. One decided that the house arrest should not continue, while the second wanted to confirm the unjust detention. Later in that day, so they have to throw out these judges because they disagree. They go to different judges, and the different judges say the house arrest needs to continue here, okay? According to Tristan Tate specifically, the evidence was finally compiled and sent to the judges. 3 have seen it so far, and 1 called for my immediate release from arrest, and that judge was outvoted today, but this is still progress. So now there's some judges over in Romania just straight up saying, yeah, what is going on here? You should release this guy from house arrest. So to me, that's very telling, right? And I think in some ways you can make an argument, and we'll have to see what happens, but in some ways it highlights how corrupt this case is, because how do you end up with such dissenting opinions from judges in regards to a criminal case? I don't understand it. Because in constitutional law, it makes sense. You know, you got liberal interpretations of something, conservative interpretations, blah, blah, blah. I would think in a criminal case, won't most judges just have, and again, it's Romania, so maybe that's an aspect of this too, but won't most judges have to look at laws and say, either this is protocol or this is not? Right? There seems to be such a high degree of subjectivity here that, you know, breeds in room for corruption. And then, like I said, beyond that, how do you just end up with judges that have such dissenting opinions if the whole thing is not completely corrupt, okay? So it's as I've been calling here, the whole thing just seems to be a ploy specifically, even if they cannot convict the brothers, which they still, in my opinion, very well could, because there's a lot of international pressure to do so. We've seen some pretty corrupt judges and just corrupt handling of the case so far. Who's to say that doesn't go all the way down to the very verdict itself? So I would absolutely say, especially if the UK is involved, especially if Western interests with the EU and the United States, if they want to put enough pressure on Romania to get this thing done, to you know, lock them up, right? And if they were already presumably able to do that with the initial arrest to begin with, who's to say they can't tamper in the verdict itself? So I would say, to me, that seems like a strong possibility. But regardless of whether or not that happens, you're hearing that the case is supposed to take multiple years, okay? They're not going to have exactly a very speedy trial here. And then it seems like their plan at the moment is to keep them on house arrest for the entire duration of the trial. Just keep extending it, keep extending it. When I look at that, it's very reminiscent of what sometimes you see in America, which is we're going to just use the justice system in all ways possible to harass you and make your life as difficult as possible. And we're going to abuse it as much as we can, right? Because there's no reason why they have to be on house arrest. They're very high profile people. Yes, they have money, but at the same time, how are they exactly going to, for instance, flee the country, right? I don't think they necessarily intend to do that. I don't think there's strong evidence they intend to do that. You know, they wouldn't be allowed to do that even if they were not on house arrest. But what's really going on here? What's going on here is they just want to make their life as difficult as possible, right? So we're going to keep you here on house arrest and just kind of keep you there. So that way it's screwing with your life. It's harassing you. We're going to extend the length of this trial. So that way we can keep doing this thing, extend the house arrest, just keep you under investigation, under trial, right? A pending trial for as long as possible. That seems to be what's going on here. And it's ultimately an effort to just stifle them, right? Make life harder for them, make life difficult for them. Judicial harassment is really what seems to be going on here. And that to me just confirms it. I don't understand at this point, you know, you already, now that charges have been brought, now that there's a trial scheduled to happen, for what reason? Is this really their plan? You're going to keep on house arrest for how long? Like 1 to 2 years, 3 years? How is that fair? How does that make any sense? How is that even justifiable? It's not. But again, what are they trying to do here? Keep them, harass them, make life difficult, use every aspect of the legal system you can just to make their life, you know, more difficult and make spreading whatever they're trying to do more difficult. So, you know, that seems to be very clear to me what's going on here again. And I've said that since the very start, right? I said, especially when the first evidence started to come out, that this whole thing was a little bit suspect, you know, that back when they were in jail. What did I say when they kept extending the arrest in jail? I said, well, you know, what they're going to do here is probably extend it the full length just to make, you know, just to screw them over, right? We haven't brought charges yet. We're not really clear what we're investigating you for, but let's just use every aspect we can to hold you in jail for as long as possible. There was enough political pressure to where, okay, we're going to release you, but we'll put you on house arrest. But you see what they're doing, right? They waited as long as possible as they could to bring charges, which is usually, you know, you indict someone, you arrest someone, you indict them, right? You know, you don't wait, right? You bring charges immediately, because the longer you don't bring charges, the more suspect things get. But A, they probably don't have evidence. But then also B, if we wait the whole 6-month arrest period, you know, we can just keep this going for as long as possible. And then now, what are they doing? They're trying to keep this going for as long as possible. Why? Because it's not about justice. You know, I look at the way it's being handled, and I have to say, well, you know, if they're really guilty of this, why would you be handling it in such a transparently corrupt way? Seems to assume, again, what are they trying to do? Harass them, just make life difficult, just try to muzzle what they want to do for as long as possible. And that seems to be what's going on here. So we'll have to keep you updated on that front. We'll see what happens. You know, we'll obviously give you all the updates on the case as they come. We will obviously react to the Tucker Carlson interview. He actually went to Romania and interviewed Andrew Tate, which is interesting. And that's going to break the internet when it comes. But there's the news on that front for now. We're going to move on here now and react to the Bidenomics speech. That should be fun. Let me check first really quickly if we've got any super chats, which I don't believe we did. Okay, we're all caught up and good. All right, well then let's move on here, ladies and gentlemen. So, let me check Streamlabs really quickly, make sure we got nothing. Okay, we're good. Okay, so, all right, moving on here, ladies and gentlemen. So, Joe Biden went to South Carolina today and did another speech on Bidenomics. Okay, I don't know why he keeps doubling down that he has a good economy. Chat, does anyone here feel like the economy's going well? Like, besides a few BlackRock investors, I don't see anyone in this country who thinks the economy is good, liberal or Republican. I mean, or conservative, I should say. You know, you can be in denial about it. You can say, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. But deep down, like, the gas prices are still not where they really should be. Everything is still expensive, right? And especially, you want to talk about suburban moderates and all that stuff. The prices of homes, the prices of cars, you know, things that are tantamount to the American dream. You see what's going on there. So if I were Joe Biden, I don't understand. Why would you even celebrate the economy? Why don't you just try to move on to something else, right? Just say, oh, the Republicans want to talk about abortion and they're coming for your rights or something, you know? I don't understand why Joe Biden is coming along and saying the economy is good, because who thinks the economy is good? Poor people don't think it's good. Middle class people don't think it's good. Again, even like rich people outside of the specific ESG related things that Biden, you know, particularly is in bed with, they don't think I don't understand what he's doing. But today he went out and gave a speech in South Carolina, and we're going to react to it. It's about 20 minutes long. I don't know how much of it we're going to react to. We'll see how long we last. But, you know, last time we reacted to a Biden speech, you guys seem to enjoy it. So let's just sit down and watch this for as long as we can. Let's just see how long we go. Okay, I'll feel it out. But here you go. Here's Joe Biden talking about Bidenomics.
Hello, South Carolina. Thank you, Nikki. You wonder what I'm kicking there? I'm kicking a stand-in. It's not working. How about that? All right.
What is he doing? Wait, chat. Watch this. Okay. You're like, we need a new president. We need a new president. Oh, yeah? Look at me. I am the president now. It's true. All right, let's play the speech.
I'll be 6'4". Folks, thank you, Ralph, for being here. And I want to particularly thank my good friend Jim Clyburn. The truth of the matter is, all of you know in South Carolina, I wouldn't be standing here if it were not for Jim Clyburn. Jim has been one of the most consequential leaders in South Carolina history, in my view.
If you think the audio sucks, because it does. I looked at multiple streams. I thought, you know, maybe it's just this stream or that stream. No, the audio this whole time is just not working. So that may hinder our ability to watch this. Let me know if you guys can understand it. I mean, I can basically understand him. Let me know if it's good for you guys. But yeah, he went out today, gave a speech on a, you know, terrible mic. So that adds to it all.
He's tough, he's loyal, he's principled, and he let me, I want to tell you something. If he has your back, he always has your back.
Let me crop this so you can see the subtitles. Hold on. There you go. There you go.
You and your daughter. And look, former Mayor Steve Benjamin couldn't be here today, and you all remember Steve as your mayor, because he's traveling with his family. And it's great to have him here, have him part of our team. But his mom and dad are here. By the way, if you have seats, sit down. I'm sorry.
No, everyone's standing to catch you because you're about to fall over. So, you know, we're all...
There were no seats. They said, Biden so stupid, didn't know there were no seats.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Anyway.
Real.
Also want to thank the leadership of Enphase and Flex for hosting this. You know, I'm here to talk about what we're doing to invest in America.
And you guys say my audio is bad.
Invest in America. All of America. Starting here in South Carolina. And to talk about the progress we made in building the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not trickling down. When you build from the middle out and the bottom up, everybody does well. The wealthy still do very well. But that trickle-down economy, not a whole lot dropped on my dad's kitchen table growing up. So,
and what's dropping onto your dad's kitchen table now, guys? Oh, trickle-down economics didn't work. Because, you know... By the way, growing up, okay, he said this in the last speech, and we'll debunk this here, okay? Trickle-down economics was a thing in the 80s, right? That's Ronald Reagan's whole thing. Joe, you did not grow up in the 80s. You were a senator in the 1980s, okay? Your dad growing up or whatever would have been the 50s, the 60s, right? If anything, you know, the 50s, whatever, Eisenhower, all that stuff. But if it was during the 60s, that'd be the fault of Kennedy, of LBJ, of the Great Society. You know, I'm not even here to get into this nerdy economic debate. You guys know I don't really care particularly for those issues extensively. But that's just a lie. Trickle-down economics was not what, oh, my dad growing up never had it. What do you mean your dad, when you were growing up, you know, Reagan wasn't even president yet. It's just, it's gaslighting, it's nonsense, you know? And yeah, were the Reagan years perfect? Is Reagan perfect? No. But from an economic perspective, the 1980s were a period of great prosperity, and the 60s and 70s were not. And in that kind of same regard, you know, the 2020s have not been in a period of economic prosperity, whereas the mid to late 2010s were. So,
all part of an economic vision for this country.
what are you
I
talking
came to
about?
office determined, to the point of some, my own team thought I was too determined, to change the economic direction of this country, to move trickle-down economics and get rid of it for everyone, from the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, called the program Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it as a compliment at the time.
It's
Our
not a
plan is
compliment.
working. And one of the things I'm proudest of is working
Our plan
everywhere,
is
not
working.
just in the coast and big cities like previous recoveries. This time investment is working in factories being built and jobs being created, happening in rural America, the heartland, all across America.
Where?
In communities that have been left out and hollowed out.
Where?
This is what it looks like across the country.
Which
Over
towns?
13 million new jobs since I've been elected to office. More jobs than any president's ever created in the first 2 years.
You mean East Palestine, Ohio, that you abandoned? Where are you reviving rural America? Rural Americans, do you feel revived under Joe Biden, or are things getting better?
800,000
What is he talking
manufacturing
about?
jobs, including 14,000
Come on,
in
Joe.
this state alone. This state alone. And again, that's more in 2 years than was created in 4 years in any other administration. Unemployment been below 4% for the longest time in 50 years. Inflation is less than half of what it was a year ago, and we're continuing to work on it. You know, I know we have more to do. Bringing down inflation remains one of my top priorities. Job satisfaction nationally is at a 36-year high. The share of working-age Americans in the workforce is as high as it's been in 30 years. Remember they used to say, Biden spent all this money to keep people from working? People are off the sidelines. 20 years high. Higher than every single one of my predecessors. And
I don't know what he's saying.
the pay
I don't know what he's saying.
The pay for low-wage workers has grown at the fastest pace in 2 decades. And folks, it's no accident. It's Bidenomics in action. Trickle-down economics has failed the country for decades. It means slashing public investment on things that helped America lead the world in innovation. You know, we used to invest 2% of our entire gross domestic product in research and development. You know what it is now? 0.7%. We used to be ranked #1 in the world in research and development. Know where we're ranked now? #9. China's #8 a decade ago, and now China's #2. And other countries are closing in fast. This is the United States of America, for God's sake. We used to have the best infrastructure in the world, rated #1. Now we're rated #13 in the world in infrastructure. How can you have the best economy in the world and not have the best infrastructure in the world? Under my predecessor, Infrastructure Week became a punchline. Every month. Anyway, I won't get into it. On my watch, we're making infrastructure
You won't get into it because you.
a decade headline. A decade. Yesterday, we announced that since I took office, we've attracted $500 billion, $497 billion in private investment in American manufacturing, both here and around the world. It's historic. And it's Bidenomics in action. Instead of exporting jobs to cheaper labor costs, what we did for decades, we're creating jobs here and exporting American product. Product, not jobs. That's the story here in South Carolina. Earlier, we heard the leadership of Enphase say that $60 million they're investing here. Well, that's 1,800 jobs across the country. And up 600 permanent jobs right here in South Carolina. All a direct result of the so-called Inflation Reduction Act we wrote and passed. Well, that's the legislation that passed where so much money is coming in to make all this happen. By the way, parenthetically, I want you to hear about the deficit. I cut the deficit $1.7 trillion in 2 years. Nobody's ever done that. Cut the debt 1.7. Generates income. It generates growth.
All right, well, while we listen to his nonsense, let me read this super chat really quickly. Republican Thinker for 10 Canadian says, watch a new Spider-Man movie with my brother. Thank you very much. Like, the only main character that was white is Peter Parker, was made super feminine, wearing a pink robe with a chest baby carrier. Well, you know, hey, maybe Andrew Tate is right about Spider-Man, okay? Have you ever seen the Spider-Man video? It is real. Now, yeah, Spider-Man is, you know, I'm not an active Spider-Man hater, but he does make a good point in that video, which is, a superhero you would think should be a Chad, you know what I mean? He should be like big, buff, strong, cool. Batman's cool, you know what I mean? Billionaire, freaking drives a cool car, buff, he can fight. Spider-Man is just some nerd who accidentally got bitten and then accidentally becomes a superhero, and he's still a nerd. But now they're making that worse. Instead of making Spider-Man cooler, they're now just making him basically, he's wearing pink robes. And yeah, okay. Well, now he's being he's always been a simp for Mary Jane, so it's true. But yeah. Thank you for the 10 Canadian. I mean, you will be hard pressed to find movies with truly masculine men who are not getting emasculated these days. How often do you really see it? But particularly white men, right? That don't get emasculated. And that's not just in the movies, in the commercials and everything. It's true. But thank you for the 10 Canadian. Again, guys, if you do want to super chat to support the show, it's greatly appreciated, and we will read them. But all right, let's continue this speech. Let's see how long we get into this, okay?
Enphase first commercialized a component that converts solar energy into electricity. All that solar energy doesn't do a whole lot of good if you can't do it and convert it into electricity. It's called, they've invented a thing called a solar microinverter. Jobs that used to go to Mexico, India, Romania, and China are now coming home to South Carolina. Now Enphase is partnering with Flex to make these parts here in South Carolina. And today, they're shipping their first microinverters made in America.
See, I agree. I don't disagree with this. My problem with it is, you know, when you look at Joe Biden's career, he's the guy who voted. He's the guy who supported in the 80s. That's what happened, right? We moved all of the production of these chips and stuff to Taiwan, and now all of a sudden he's running back and saying, well, we're going to move them back. Well, I sure hope he follows through. I sure hope he rectifies that mistake. Democrat or Republican, this Taiwan thing with the chips and the converters is a national security issue 100%. But I mean, well, it's Biden. I mean, let's be real.
The good news is 90% of these jobs require intelligence but don't require a college degree. And Flex is working with Midlands Technical College in Columbia to develop training and pathways so folks can get these jobs. Since I took office, we've seen over 60 domestic manufacturing announcements all across the solar supply chain. One of the biggest is in Dalton, Georgia. You may find it hard to believe, but that's Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. I'll be there for the groundbreaking. Look, just today the Department of Energy announced new incentives for companies to bring solar power manufacturing back to our shores. We're in a real race. China's ahead of us. This is
solar power manufacturing. You know, that's what we really need, guys. We need solar power manufacturing. Yeah, Google how much solar panel actually is efficient. It's not, okay? It doesn't do anything. It barely produces any energy. But apparently what we need is gigantic panels of solar panels and windmills all across America. Because first of all, that's so aesthetically pleasing to look at, right? These people talk all about how we need to protect the environment, protect our natural lands. How are you protecting natural lands by putting a bunch of ugly solar panels and windmills on them? By the way, research what windmills do for the environment especially. But even those solar panels, do you like driving through the historic Mojave Desert in California and Arizona and just seeing these big lines of solar panels? It's ugly. It's an eyesore. And what are we getting for that eyesore? Because, yeah, don't get me wrong. If we were like, saving the world genuinely or something, I'd be like, okay, fine, build the solar panels. They barely produce any energy. They're highly inefficient. All these renewables are inefficient, right? And we're making our whole country an ugly place for it, You're going to drive through all of rural America and just see these stupid solar panels and windmills. They're ugly. They're an eyesore. They're painful to look at. They ruin the natural beauty of this country, legitimately. And the return on investment we get is virtually no energy. Environmentalism, by the way, though, guys.
We need to go 100% clean, renewable energy electricity by 2035. By 2035, all electricity in America is going to be generated by clean energy.
Good luck with that.
That's a big deal. It's saving billions of tons going into the air, pollution.
Okay, by 2035, it's all going to be clean energy. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? I don't understand. You look at how inefficient wind and solar are. You're against nuclear energy. So by 2035, I guess we're all going to be in the dark, right? We're going to have no power. It's going to be like California on steroids, where, you know, you're going to burn to death in the summertime because there's a flex alert. You can't have AC. People are going to freeze in the winter because we have constant power shortages. And we're going to have a big, ugly country with a bunch of solar panels everywhere that don't work. Oh no, guys. Guys. It's cloudy outside. It's over! End of the world. Everyone panic. Everyone go run in the streets. It's Armageddon. Guys, it's not windy outside. There's no power. Yeah, that's the country I want to live in. You know? Dark Brandon, absolutely embarrassed by the presence of cloud cover and no wind.
You see the same story in semiconductors.
Good luck.
Those small little computer chips the size of the tip of your finger that affect nearly everything in our lives. From your cell phone, automobiles, and refrigerators.
Great point, Marxist Dixie. Yeah, they do have to cut down a bunch of trees.
They need these, and guess what? America invented these chips. We're the ones that invented them. We sophisticated those chips. We made them what they are. But over time, we went from producing nearly 40% of the world's chips down to less than 10%. That's why we designed and I signed the Chips and Science Act. All these names don't mean much until you know what they produce. Because I knew we had to reclaim America's leadership. Now, all over the country, semiconductor companies are investing a record hundreds of billions of dollars to bring chip production back home in Ohio, New York, Arizona, and all across the, like outside Columbus, Ohio. Intel is investing in 1,000 acres outside of Ohio, $20 billion. $20 billion. It's going to take 7,000
Well, I hope they
people
are.
to build
Genuinely, I hope they are. I mean,
factories, and it's going to take 5,000 permanent workers. There's Syracuse, Micron, is investing up to $100 billion over the next 20 years.
What's up, alien girl?
In Phoenix, Arizona, TSMC is investing $40 billion, producing thousands of good-paying jobs. As I said, for example, in Ohio, those 7,000 jobs building the facility are going to generate economic growth in an entire region.
All right,
Delays in parts and products. Everybody knows why supply chains matter. We know for too long China's dominated the production of raw materials needed for critical products.
And whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? It's funny because all of the legitimately good things that Biden says when he talks about all the, you know, economic nationalism and supply chains. Oh my God. Look, oh no. Biden attacking the... Oh no. No. Look at that. I was trying to criticize Brandon and they contacted the FBI and here we are. Look at that. All right, we're back. Anyways, as I was saying, all the stuff you hear him say that's good is all extensions of Trump policy and Trumpian talking points. 100%, right? Because I don't disagree with it. We should bring semiconductors back. It's a national security issue with this whole Taiwan thing, and I've said that, and like if it's really happening, then I'll say, okay, good for Biden, whatever. But these are extensions of Trump policies. You're basically parroting that because Trump proved how popular they are with real people. Because your entire political career, you supported all these trade deals. You were perfectly fine in the 80s when we moved semiconductor and chip, production to Taiwan to begin with. When you were vice president, you were talking about Xi Jinping and how China's not an enemy and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, very suddenly, because of the popularity of Trump, suddenly this guy's all about America first, populism, nationalism. It's nonsense. You know, it's a joke.
That's why we're building alliances with our friends all across the world, increasing our production here at home to create alternative sources for the minerals we need. Our goal is to bring full battery supply chain home. We create a battery belt stretching from Michigan to Georgia. In Chester County, South Carolina, Albemarle is investing $1.5 billion.
All right, I think we get the point in this part. It's, you know, he's not saying bad stuff, but it's just stolen Trump talking points. And let's see, high-speed internet, he goes on. Let's see what he's saying at the end here. Let's skip toward the end.
Already saving $30 a month on their internet. Look, we're doing this in communities all over the country.
Biden, are you ever going to fix my internet?
Where the money's going, whether you're affected in your community here, by going to invest.gov. Click on to invest.gov, put in your location, and I'll tell you what's happening in your community. You all see projects we're delivering in communities all across America. Look, implementing this legislation also has another transformative impact. All those members of Congress who voted against it suddenly realize how great it is, and they're bragging about it. As my mother would say, God love it. I want to thank Senator Grant for voting for the bipartisan infrastructure and the CHIPS and Science Act. I wish he'd voted for the rest. Every Republican member of the Congress voted against the Inflation Reduction Act. Everyone. Every Republican member of the House in this state voted to repeal the clean energy provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act. That attracts all these jobs. You know,
clean energy provisions don't attract jobs, Joe. They turn away jobs, okay? And the reason people voted against the Inflation Reduction Act is because it was nonsense that was going to increase inflation. It's not that complicated.
And then after that effort failed, the Republican Study Committee, which includes over 3/4 of the House Republicans, just released a plan to go at trying to repeal it all again.
Based.
That hadn't stopped them though from claiming credit. Now the billions of dollars and thousands of jobs are coming to the United States.
All right, I think we get the point. Do you guys want to listen to the rest? Let's just skim the transcript, see if there's anything interesting. Trigonomics, okay. It's about your dignity. Okay, let's hear the end. Let's hear his conclusion. Here we go.
That's the American
dream. A good paycheck to keep their roots where they grew up. Because that's what Joe Biden's all about, right? Joe Biden's all about small town America. He wants you to keep your town and not have to go move to the big city because all the jobs left. You know, he really loves rural America, which is why when a rural American town in Ohio was devastated by a chemical explosion, he absolutely did nothing and basically left the town to die. And still to this day, basically has been leaving the town to be harmed by the chemicals. And you know, who knows what's going to happen there. I hate to say it, I virtually guarantee 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to hear about a lot of cancer. I hate to say it, you probably will. Cancer, there's going to be some class action lawsuits, settlements, all that stuff. I virtually guarantee you. I virtually guarantee you that's what's going to happen. But, you know, but he really does care, though. He really does care about rural America. That's why when Ohio had a problem, he did nothing and would not even speak about it. He would not say a word about it. It took Pete Buttigieg like 2 weeks to actually go visit the place. He's the person who's supposed to be in charge of transportation. Because Joe Biden loves rural America, which is why he never visits there. He won't talk about it. He won't address the fact that, people are dying there. Nothing about it. Nothing about it. Opioid problem, doesn't care. But, what he's really about is making sure that the small towns don't die in our country, right?
I used to have an expression.
Right.
My word. He said, Joey, a job's about a lot more than the paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. That's Bidenomics. It's rooted in what always worked best for this country. Investing in America. Because when you invest in our people, when you strengthen the middle class, we see stronger economic growth that benefits everybody. I've long said, it's never been a good bet to bet against America. And I can honestly say I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just have to remember who we are, for God's sake. with the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity if we work together. So let's continue to work together. God bless you all, and may God protect our country.
All right, so there's Biden. Let's see if he hobbles off the stage. You think he will? Let's watch him hobble. All right. Did he make it down the stairs? He made it down the stairs. Let's go, Mr. President. You didn't fall. Round of applause for Biden not falling. Let's go. Let's go. Very good job. All right, anyways, there's a Biden speech. It is now about almost 9 o'clock. We will do super chats here until about 9:15, 9:20. And I might do a members block tonight. Let's see. We haven't done a members block this week, so maybe we'll do one. I don't know. Should we do a member? All right, we'll do a members block. We'll do a members block after we do the super chats tonight. So be sure to become a channel member. Link down in the description to join us on the bonus portion of tonight's stream. We will do that here tonight. But all right, questions, comments, Q&A. We are open for our super chat, so feel free to send them in via these super chats. And it is now Q&A time on this show. Thoughts on the Biden speech? I'm impressed that he actually walked down the stairs with a pep in his step. All right, I think he had energy today. I think the mysterious substances that were found around the White House, it was actually from him. And, you know, he had a little energy today. He said, "We are America." You know, he's actually coherent and stuff. You know, I really don't support the use of you know what, but Biden would probably be a little bit more alive if he had it. Just saying. So, you know, everyone's like, "Oh, it's obviously Hunter." How do you know that? Maybe it was him. Yeah, anyone ever asked? Has anyone stopped to ask this question, right? Because why is it sometimes Joe manages to somewhat hobble through stuff, and then other times he's completely like lost his mind? Yeah, he's old. Maybe he didn't get a good night's sleep, you know, sleep apnea or whatever. Or you know how they get him going, right? They you know, they give him some of the powder, right? I don't know, you know. Shoot, if I were Joe and if I were Joe and I that was me, you know, I was just all the time, Mr. Biden can't talk, can't do anything. I don't know. I mean, I kind of understand it, right? You might need a little bit of it. I'm just saying. Kidding, of course. But all right, let's take a look here. His speech is the pregame show before the stairwalk. So true, Smith. So true. I never assumed it was Hunter's. Yeah, real. I mean, here's my thing though, right? If it were just some White House intern, because that's possible, right? Let me say this. There's a lot of cocaine in Washington, D.C., okay? For the record, I've never done cocaine, okay? But I do know for a fact, it's a big thing in D.C. culture. Everyone, all the staffers, freaking college kids, it's like a big thing in D.C. So I'm open to the possibility, as much Hunter Biden jokes aside. It's a legitimate possibility that some staffer brought it in or whatever, or the Biden staff was doing cocaine in there. But my thing about that is, why did law enforcement come out and say, we don't think we're going to find the culprit, right? Because if some low-level intern was doing cocaine, you think okay, you're fired, kick him out, we figured it out. But clearly there's some type of cover-up going on, because they've said, we're not going to be able to identify it, unlikely. What do you mean? You got cameras? You have fingerprints? If it's just some I mean, I'd have to imagine everyone in the White House is already biometrically identified, so why not just say, okay, whose fingerprints are on this bag? Yours? Okay, get out of the White House, cokehead. But see, so the reason I think it's like Hunter or Joe himself or something, or someone protected, obviously, is because of the fact that law enforcement says they can't solve the mystery. Because what do you mean? It seems like a pretty solvable mystery to me. All the stuff you have in the White House, you can't identify someone's bag of cocaine, right? But, you know, so I was open to the possibility that it's a staffer. But the problem is, if it is a staffer, why is it so hard to solve this? That's my big thing here. So, you know, again, guys, we're open to super chats, ladies and gentlemen, so feel free to send them in. They will obviously be prioritized here in our Q&A segment. But let me take a look here. Let's see what else we got going on. Dollar for dollars clapping. Yeah, let's go, Brandon. He walked down the stairs. Okay, he walked down the stairs correctly. So real and true. It's 9 where you are. It's only 8 where I am. Well, you are in Central Time. I am in Eastern Time. Okay, the superior time zone, I may add. All right, because we're ahead. We're ahead. Okay. Aiden, you know, I'm like an hour ahead of you. We're faster. It's true. Kidding. But let's take a look here. This is very important. Did you hear they invoked the Hatch Act to prevent answering questions about Hunter? I did not hear about that. What even happened there? I'm not exactly sure. Cocaine Carolina, how did I get hooked on you? Johnny Cash. Real. They could also drug test Yeah, that's true. They could also drug test everyone, right? Although, does cocaine move through your system? I don't know how it works. I've never done cocaine. Okay. Sorry to admit, I've never done cocaine. Okay, yeah, I know, big revelation, right? But so I don't know how that works, because I know like alcohol just dissipates. Does cocaine dissipate? And any cocaine experts there can acknowledge. But yeah, that's another thing they could do. Because you think it'd be a serious thing. Cocaine's an illegal drug, and they bring it in the White House. You know, and by the way, it's causing all this scandal. You know, the Republicans rightly are making fun of it. Wouldn't you want to immediately solve who's bringing it in? Again, the only reason you wouldn't want to solve it and not want to put an immediate stop to it is because why? Someone who you are trying to protect is the one doing it. Like, that seems pretty obvious to me, right? That's really the only explanation we could have here. So either that's Hunter, or my alternative answer, my alternative proposal, and I think it is possible, I think we should acknowledge, maybe they're giving it to Joe, right? Who knows? In limited doses or something, because he's how old, right? You need to get him. It's just saying it's possible. It could happen. I have no idea. So, I don't know. Sandra Meyer says, depends on your metabolism, but it usually still shows up a few days later. Well, got Sandra Meyer, the cocaine expert, is sharing that information with us. So thank you very much, Sandra Meyer. Dollar for Dollar says, Vince didn't see my super chat show up. I did not. When did you send a super chat? Stealing land? That's the only thing I got. Yeah, sometimes YouTube doesn't even show them. Okay, let me check Streamlabs. Let's see. Dollar for Dollar. It might have not went through because I don't see anything from you, Dollar for Dollar. Yeah, I don't see anything. Did you send one in? I don't see it. Not sure. A hair follicle test. Well, you could do. There's just so many things you could do. The idea, like, if it's really true that they have no idea who brought this, then that's a severe national security risk. Because white powder, it's cocaine, whatever. It could be, cyanide. It could be poison, right? You could be ricin, whatever. I don't know. You would think you see an unidentified substance in the White House. You'd think it'd be a serious matter, right? So if they really can't identify it, they don't know who brought it in. And then you heard the news today. They totally got the story wrong. They said, well, we thought it was in this room, but it was actually in this. The whole thing is strange. The whole thing is obviously being covered up. That's the only answer, truly. All right. Pigeon Slayer for $5. Thank you very much. Says they would have Joe off Adderall. Coke doesn't last long enough. Can't get a donation to you on Streamlabs. Thank you for the $5, Pigeon Slayer. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm sorry Streamlabs is stupid. It's the payment processor everyone uses, but I get this complaint a lot. It won't go through. So, I mean, yeah, I appreciate the $5 though, Pigeon Slayer. Thank you very much. And I guess I don't know how all these drugs work, Only drug I take is caffeine, truly, Caffeine, nicotine on special occasions, but that's really about it. So I'm not an expert on this stuff, okay? Really not. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't live in DC. If I lived in DC, then I don't. It's just straight. Everyone in that city, man. Everyone in that city does cocaine. Wild. Like so let me confirm, because I know people probably have these suspicions, right? Is it true about DC? Do they have sex parties? Do they have cocaine? I have no idea about the sex parties. Okay, I don't network with people like that. Let me just say that. But the cocaine stuff, yeah, that's real. It's real. Everyone in that city, man, it's nuts. So, it tells you like everyone in that city is just miserable. They're all depressed. They abuse substances on a regular basis. They all vape, which is strange too. All the young staff. There's so many like young staffers I know. They went to DC. They were, good kids and stuff. Now they vape, and I'm not hating on like going to bars or whatever, but they get like plastered every weekend. A lot of them do coke. It's crazy. Like that city is just Gomorrah, dude. It really is. Please, if I ever for some reason try to move there, someone needs to please step in and tell me no, okay? I like no guarantees because I work in an industry. Obviously, maybe at some point I would end up in DC. Who knows? But my hope is let's just stay away from that place. Like I don't know. There's an energy about it that's I don't know. It's wild. Okay, it's quite the place. Sounds like they are stuck in 80s misery. Basically, yeah, basically. But the thing is, at least like Miami, I guess it's cooler there, you know what I mean? It's like DC, you work in politics. Politics is for dorks. Let's be real. I mean, I know we do it, but it's like you're a bunch of like high school government nerds who ended up in politics, and you're living in misery. At least in Miami, you're like living in misery in a cool way. DC, you're like a dork. Okay, it's Washington dork C. All the Hill staffers and all that stuff. It's all like nerds, but it's miserable, depressed nerds who abuse substances all the time. That's DC for you. I don't know. At least like the younger side of DC, all the staffers, because whenever I go up there, that's what I end up, interacting with. But it is the way it goes. Have an intervention for you, yeah. Yeah, I mean, real. Like, I mean, if I had a really lucrative job, maybe move to DC. I don't know. I'd have to fight it at all costs. But there's so much about that city. I don't ever want to be there. It's fun to visit. Every political person wants to go to DC, and I have friends there, and we have fun and all that. I don't do cocaine. But I feel like just the way that city is, if I moved up there long term, some way, because it just corrupts everyone, some way you'd see me doing the cocaine. You see me sniffing the coke. I don't know. Because apparently everyone there does it. I'd rather not. I'd rather not take the risk. I'd rather just stay away. Okay, just stay away. Visit there for a few days and then run away as fast as possible. Run away fast as you can. Real. It's true. Right. Not like your Vice City cool. Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Like I'd much rather live in Miami than DC, because at least in Miami it's like, yeah, bad stuff goes on, but it's kind of cool. DC is like bad stuff goes on, but you're a nerd. Like no one. Here's the thing, right? No one in the world hears you live in DC and is like, wow, you live in DC, that's so cool, right? You live in LA, people like, that's cool. You live in Miami, you live in New York, people look at that, and even though living there realistically is probably kind of dystopian, at least people respect it. They're like, oh wow, man, you must have the life. You live in DC. No one respects people. No one's like, wow, you living my dream. No one does. So it's like, it's just total misery. There's no status to it at all. No, bro, I interned for my congressman. Yeah, congratulations. You're really killing it in life, congressional intern. It's like no hate to anyone who does intern. I'm just pointing it out. It's like, let's just stay away from DC, okay? Just everyone, just don't go, just. And if young guys out there, if you need to get involved in politics, do what you got to do. I'm just warning you. This is the way it is, okay? It's your choice, it's your life, but it's the way it is. But again, guys, you do want to super chat to support the show. Last call here. We'll go for another 5 to 10 minutes. So last call here for super chats. I have to check a group chat really quickly on something. So let me see if that's done. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. People have unrealistic expectations of many who live in Alaska as well. Well, I've never been to Alaska. I don't know. I just feel like Alaska's so far to see so little. Don't get me wrong, I would visit. It seems cool, and beautiful, all that stuff. My only problem with Alaska, right? Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's nice. But what is there in Alaska that you can see that you can't see in, say, Montana? Besides the Northern Lights, sure, Aurora Borealis. I haven't heard that word in so long, but I feel like I wouldn't want to take a flight all the way to Alaska just to see Alaska. If Alaska were nearby, I'd be like, yeah, let's go see Alaska. I don't know. Anyone been to Alaska? Can we confirm or deny this? True. Vince, how's the studio coming? The studio is ready. In fact, we have some content filmed in it. We posted the 4th of July video and some other stuff. So the studio is basically done. I got to buy some stuff for a backdrop, but never fear. We are in the process. It is coming, okay? And by the time school starts up, we should have it ready to go. And we'll have quite this show. We'll have quite this show. But we're going to start I mean, we already have started using it for some content, and we'll definitely keep doing that. But let's see here. Come on up. I'll show you some of the sites. We'll hit the Kenai River and do some fishing. Okay. All right. I mean, we could. But the flight, dude. How long is a flight to Alaska? From California, how long is it? Because I'd have to fly across the country first. But from California, isn't it like 6 hours? Fly 12 hours to go fishing? You know? You go fishing here. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Texas is slept on. That's why us Texans are so loud. Who's sleeping on Texas? Everyone is like, that's a big state. I don't know. But it is real. Lizel Igfried says, would you rather sniff the powder or go back to eating seed oils? Unironically, I wonder what kills you faster. I mean, a genuine question. Does cocaine or seed oils kill you faster? Who knows? Who knows? Probably the safe bet is cocaine. But I want a genuine side by side. Like let's see on that front. I have no idea. It's a good question. I want a study done on this. What is actually worse for you? I have no idea. From LAX to Anchorage, about 6 to 8. 6 to 8. So I'd have to fly like 12 hours in total to go do what? Go fishing? Go see a bear? Get eaten by a bear? See a forest? I'm not hating on Alaska itself. I'm not. It looks beautiful. I'm just saying it seems like a really long flight to see that. You see what I'm saying? So like what does Alaska have that Yellowstone doesn't have? I guess that's the trade-off. That's what I'm trying to figure out. You know? I don't know. It just I'm not anti-Alaska. it just seems like such a long flight. You know what I'm saying? Life-changing experience though I mean, if it's that cool, then I'll consider Alaska. If it's a life-changing experience, okay. But what's life-changing up there? I guess the air is very clean. I'd have to imagine it's like very clean air out there. But maybe 2 bears. All right. You guys, I've seen some videos in Alaska. You guys get like grizzly bear. I saw this video. This grizzly bear was like trying to invade this guy's house. It's like he's the invader. It's like a World War II style beach invasion. The bear's coming. The guy's here with his AR-15. You know, he's in the machine gun bunker basically. It was crazy. It's crazy, man. That's the other thing. You guys got grizzly bears. I don't mess around with grizzly bears. Okay? Gators, I don't care. Black bears, whatever. And I'm not the biggest fan, but whatever. I've never been somewhere that has grizzly bears. I kind of don't want to. Okay? When we were young, my mom always wanted to go to Yellowstone. And every single time I was like, but there's grizzly bears. I don't want to deal with a grizzly. Because what do you do in the face of a grizzly bear? You can shoot it, I get it, but oh, you can't bring a gun in a national park. Well, then what am I supposed to do if a freaking grizzly bear is like stands up on its hind legs and decides it wants to kill you? You're screwed, you know? I don't like to be in situations where basically it boils down to, oh, we'll hope for the best, you know? So I don't go here in Florida. I don't go in the water. I don't go in lakes. I don't go in rivers. I don't care. Bro, it's fine. It's safe. I don't want to be in the position where the alligator comes up. I see them on land. They're not scary because they just lay here like this, you know, just like. That's all the gators do on the land. But in the water, that's their territory. Okay, like what do? You know, I just rather not be in the. So I feel the same way about grizzly bears. You know, black bear. Okay, whatever. We'll take it on. I still would rather not, but we'll deal with it. Grizzly bears. That's just another. I don't know. I don't know if I want to deal with that, you know? Because what do? You pepper spray it. Like realistically, what do? Just stay strapped and you'll be fine. I mean, even then, if you just have a 9mm, is that going to stop a grizzly or is that just going to make it mad? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm like Joe Rogan, you know? I'm obsessed with these bears. They're nuts. Gators are hyper fast. Well, they're not going to chase you though, because they're cold-blooded, so they don't use their energy like that. They're not going to like with their. And yes, they can run really fast for short distances, but you don't see gators go on 100-meter sprints, okay? Because their body energy doesn't work that way. Also, they're pretty chill. Realistically, gators are pretty relaxed. There's these crocodiles are crazy, but alligators, they're actually pretty chill. They just sit here like this, and they're like. But when you're in the water, yeah, I mean, that's the problem. They killed all the grizzlies in California, which is tragic for the wildlife, but still, I mean, you can go to Yellowstone now and be safer than if you didn't. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't want to mess around with the grizzly bears, you know? Polar bears are freaking cute, but they're also the most dangerous killing. Yeah, I mean, Vince, you'd want a 10 millimeter? Yeah. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Would you want to deal with a grizzly bear? See, I don't want to live in Montana or Wyoming either for this reason, among others. I don't want to be anywhere where there's grizzly bears. Yeah. I just rather not. You know? Grizzlies can't run very fast on two legs. No, I know, but you know when they stand up like they mean business, okay? I know they get down, they chase you. But I'm just saying. Would I want to be around grizzly bears? Bring a full-on machine gun. See, I'm fine with that. Okay, yeah, I'll traverse. You know, give me some 5.56. Okay, we're fine. But the park rangers, hey, I'm the park ranger, and you can't do that. Literally 1984. We're not even a free country. You can't even bring a AR-15 into a national park. You can't bring an M16 into a national park. This country's basically China at this point. No, it's real. But, you know. So that's the problem. That's my objection to Yellowstone as well, you know. My mom's always wanted to go there. And I've never wanted to go there because I don't want to see grizzly bears. You know, I don't want to be defenseless around grizzly bears. If Yellowstone lets you bring it, if I can open carry on a sling, like an open carry an AR on a sling in Yellowstone, then I'll consider it. Then we're good. I'll walk around, I'll feel safe and all that. But, that's going to scare away the tourists. Then you lost me as the tourist. Sorry, Yellowstone. Pigeon Slayer for 5. Thank you very much. Pigeon Slayer says, what's the difference between Caitlyn Jenner and Dylan Mulvaney? Thank you for the $5. Bruce Jenner, I mean. Well, you know, Bruce likes low taxes and Dylan Mulvaney likes high taxes. But, you know, besides that... Yeah, I mean, I know we very often praise Jenner because, he's Republican and, you know, all that stuff. But I actually blame him the most for this stuff when you really think about it. Because who really normalized that? I know it's been a thing before him, but really, who even knew really what that was? I didn't. I didn't know what a transformer was until he came along, and I think his role in mainstreaming and normalizing being a transformer in the culture had really the most damaging effects of anything. Like, if you look at everything now, I think if we were to go back to a single point where specifically, forget the marriage stuff, forget, you know, the G, but where the T really came around, really wasn't a thing until him. So he can come along and say, I support Trump, I'm a Republican, I don't like Gavin Newsom. Okay, I guess I appreciate it, I don't know. But until you really come out and just totally repent of everything you've done, I look at him and I don't see, Republican, welcome to the Big Ten. I look at him and say, you are the reason. You are by far the single biggest reason culturally why all this stuff exists. Think back to 2015, right? That whole thing did not exist until him. I know it was a very small minority fringe movement, but him coming out and doing it is really what mainstreamed this stuff. So if you want to look at where the slippery slope really started to roll at 100 miles per hour, again, I know it was starting before, but where the avalanche really came down and was really picking up, it all started with him. So, you know, he can say what he wants about GOP and all that stuff, and fine. You know, maybe he's +1 for the Republicans. Whatever. But I don't see him as a friend at all. Again, unless he comes out and totally reverses it all and cuts the hair and just fixes, that whole situation. I look at him with contempt because I say, yeah, fine, you're a Republican, but you're the one who also started all this nonsense. So either truly turn from your ways, or if not, you're still dragging us down in many ways. You still are, So there's my thoughts on that individual. Okay, on that individual. Okay. But all right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 9:20 p.m. We will wrap up the show here tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Be sure to leave a like before you go, and be sure to join us tomorrow night for the last episode of the Vince Dao Show, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, here on Friday of the week. So be sure to join us tomorrow. We will do a members block here shortly, probably about 9:30-ish. Give me a couple minutes. So join us if you are a channel member, or if you want to become one, consider becoming one if you want to continue the party here tonight. And but if not, I will see you tomorrow night. Have a good night. Alpha moves only. God bless. Consider joining us on that members block. But yeah, all right, peace, guys. See you later.